Hello, my dear listeners. Please write in the comments which city or country you are listening to us from. And don't forget to subscribe and like. Enjoy listening. Doran, the girl in the sparkling leotard, was the prima ballerina at the famous Aurora Theater, which loomed over the brightly lit streets of New Babylon. Her grace on stage was legendary, and her performances attracted countless wealthy and influential admirers. Every evening when she took her bows, she was showered with flowers, and the boxes were filled with the powerful of the world, eager for even a fleeting glance. But Doran, despite all this external splendor, lived only for dance. Her sole purpose was to maintain her status at the top, not for fame or wealth, but for her mother. Her mother, Mary, was afflicted with a rare disease, and only Doran's status at the theater ensured them free treatment and housing. Every step, every pirouette was a prayer, an attempt to hold on to the fragile world they had built. One evening during the premiere of a new ballet, as Doreen soared across the stage, her world collapsed. Suddenly, sharply like a thunderclap, her dance partner, Marcus, stumbled and fell with all his weight onto her leg. A crack echoed, muffled by the music but distinctly ringing in Doran's ears. Pain pierced her, causing her to fall. The curtain dropped in an instant, and the hall plunged into anxious silence. Doran lay on the stage, feeling her body betray her, as if something inside had broken irreparably. She heard whispers, panic, and then silence, which was louder than any pain. When Doran awoke, she was lying on a hospital bed, blinded by bright light. Her leg was immobilized with metal rods, every nerve screaming in pain, a reminder of the recent surgery. She didn't need an explanation of what had happened. At that moment, she understood. Her career, her entire life, everything she had worked so hard for, was over. The world, so bright and dynamic just a few hours ago, now seemed dull and motionless. Phantom pains echoed in her feet as if they were still dancing, but her body was chained to the bed. Days merged into one endless nightmare filled with pain, despair, and a sense of utter uselessness. Thoughts of simply disappearing, dissolving, flickered through her mind, but the image of her mother, her fragile face, kept Doran on the edge of the abyss. 3 months later, Doran was discharged from the hospital. She could walk, but every step was met with phantom pain, a reminder of what had been lost. Returning home, she found a man in the living room whom she hadn't seen in a long time. It was her uncle, Adam, her mother's brother. Adam was the deputy director of the Bureau of National Security, a powerful, mysterious organization whose existence was felt like a cold wind even in the highest circles of New Babylon. His work kept him constantly busy, and he rarely visited them. Doran, accustomed to the rituals of hospitality, put the kettle on. As she poured the fragrant tea, Adam spoke in a low, enveloping voice. Doran, I heard about your misfortune. I'm sorry, but perhaps I can help you. There is an opportunity. He placed a thin envelope on the table and stood up. Look at this when you're ready. With those words, he left, leaving behind only a faint scent of expensive cologne and a feeling of unspoken words. Doran returned to her room. The envelope lay on the table like an uninvited guest. Inside, she found an old-fashioned cassette recorder and a stack of photographs. Her heart raced. She pressed the play button. Voices flowed from the speaker. It was Marcus, her former partner, and Stella, another ballerina from the theater. Their conversation was disgustingly candid. Marcus, are you sure this will work? I don't want any trouble. Stella, don't be a coward. She's too confident. This is our chance. When she's gone, the place will be mine. And you? You'll get everything I promised. Stella's voice, so sweet on stage, now sounded like poison. Doran felt icy rage spreading through her veins. This was no accident. It was a deliberate, cruel attack. Her dance career, her future, her mother's health, all of it was shattered by envy. Doran's hands trembled, her vision blurred, and her mind nearly abandoned her. She barely realized what she was doing. The pounding of her heart echoed in her ears, drowning out all thoughts. Doran grabbed the umbrella that stood by the door and, almost unaware of herself, ran out of the house. She ran until she reached the service entrance of the Aurora Theater. She managed to slip inside. As if guided by an invisible force, she followed the sound of voices coming from the dressing room. The door was ajar. Marcus and Stella stood inside, laughing, their faces twisted with glee. The sight of their happy, innocent faces, knowing what they had done, ignited a blind rage within Doran. She burst into the room, swung the umbrella, and brought it down on Stella, then on Marcus. The blows were strong, each strike resonating in her own soul. Suddenly she stopped. Her hand trembled. Stella's eyes were wide with fear, and Marcus lay on the floor writhing. Doran panicked. What had she done? The thought that she might have killed them pierced her. She stepped back, dropped the umbrella, and ran out of the theater, not caring about the way. She ran through the streets of New Babylon until she dialed the ambulance, reporting the incident at the theater without revealing her identity. Returning home, she found her mother on the floor, writhing in pain. Mary lay there, clutching her hand to her chest, her face pale. "Doran, the medicine," she rasped. "What happened?" Doran asked, feeling a tightening inside. "The theater. They stopped the payments," her mother replied, her voice trembling. "The nurse left." Horror gripped Doran. The Aurora Theater, which had always covered her mother's treatment and nursing care, had ceased all payments. Without a nurse, Mary couldn't cope. They couldn't stay in the city. Their fragile world had collapsed completely. Despair made Doran think quickly. She needed Adam. He was their only hope. She found his mobile number in an old notebook and dialed. "Uncle Adam, I need help, urgently. My mother—" Adam's voice was calm, indifferent, as always. He knew what she was capable of, and he was ready to use it. "Come to the Orion Hotel on Friday at 9 in the evening," he said. "We'll meet in the bar." Doran knew that Adam never did anything for free. He was a shark in the ocean of intrigues, and even for his niece, he wouldn't help without a price. At the appointed time, Doran entered the luxurious lobby of the Orion Hotel. The bar had a subdued atmosphere, with the scents of expensive drinks and fine cigars mingling. Adam waited for her at a table in the center of the room. He was impeccably dressed, his gaze sliding over Doran, assessing her. "I have something for you," Adam said, nodding at the dress lying on a chair. "Take a bath, put this on, and sit at that table. It's the most noticeable." Doran obeyed. She went up to the room Adam had indicated. The dress lying on the bed was dark red, form-fitting, with a deep neckline completely out of her style. After taking a bath, she put it on. The deep neckline and fitted silhouette accentuated every curve of her body. In the mirror, she saw not herself, but an image created by someone else, the image of bait. Returning to the bar, she took the designated table. Soon a man entered the room, huge with an authoritative demeanor, his gaze wandering over the attendees. It was Dmitri, an oil magnate whose name was synonymous with immense wealth and boundless influence. He was accompanied by 2 bodyguards who followed him like shadows. Doran knew her task: to attract his attention. She did this simply by existing. Her beauty, her aura, her solitude at the table, all of it was a magnet. Dmitri noticed her, his gaze lingered on her, assessing. Then he stood up and approached her table. "Are you alone?" His voice was rough but confident. Doran smiled, her smile inviting. "Perhaps not for long." They began to talk. Dmitri was straightforward, almost rude. But Doran knew how to keep her mask on. After a while, he suggested they go up to his room. She agreed. In the room, Dmitri immediately got down to business. He was abrupt, his touches insistent. Doran felt like a doll, but she knew she had to endure. She needed to wait for the moment when he would get distracted to switch his phone. However, Dmitri didn't give her a second of peace. He was too pushy. Suddenly, in that tense moment, Doran saw movement behind Dmitri. A figure in dark clothing, with a motorcycle helmet on their head, silently entered the room. In the killer's hand was a thin, shiny wire. Without a sound, like a ghost, they wrapped the wire around Dimitri's neck. The magnate jerked, his eyes widened in horror, but in a moment he slumped and fell. Dorn froze, her heart stopped. Terror gripped her, but she knew. She had to act. The killer turned to her, their eyes cold and lifeless through the visor of the helmet. They nodded, and Dorn understood that she had to follow them. The killer pulled out a silenced pistol and shot the door lock, silently opening it. Together they descended to the hotel's underground parking lot. Dimitri's bodyguards were already lying on the ground. The killer was incredibly fast and efficient. They nodded toward a powerful motorcycle. Dorn got on behind them. The motorcycle sped through the tunnels, leading them deeper into the hotel into some secret area. When they stopped, the killer removed the helmet. Underneath was a familiar face. It was Arthur, one of the youngest and most talented officers of the National Security Bureau, whom Dorn had once seen at the headquarters when she visited her uncle. At that moment, the door to the room opened, and Adam walked in. He looked like a different person. His usually calm face was distorted by cold, ruthless determination. His eyes, usually veiled by a curtain of fatigue, now burned with icy fire. "Doran," Adam began, his voice devoid of its usual warmth. "You've seen too much. You've seen Arthur in action. You've seen his face. You have only two options." He paused, his gaze piercing through her. "Either you will undergo professional training and become an agent of the National Security Bureau, or your life will end right here and now." Doran knew she had no choice. The choice was merely an illusion. She nodded. "All right." Before she went for training, Doran asked for permission to say goodbye to her mother. It was the last thing that connected her to her past life. Mary, weakened by illness, lay in bed. Her eyes were full of wisdom and sorrow. "My dear Doran," Mary whispered, struggling to raise her hand to stroke her cheek. "With Uncle Adam, you must protect yourself. Don't cut off all your escape routes. Never." These words became her mantra. They echoed in her head as the car that picked up Doran sped down the snowy highway. The forest stretched endlessly with dark trees, and the snow covered everything with a white blanket. She knew that after this trip, her life would change forever. The road back was cut off. Doran was taken to a harsh, cold land, to secret military school number 4, located in the heart of the inhospitable Siberian wasteland. It was a place whispered about only among the chosen, a place where ghosts serving their country were born. The air here was so prickly that it felt like it was cutting into her lungs, and the endless snowy expanses pressed down with their silence. They were greeted by Instructor Anna, a woman with an iron gaze and a body chiseled from steel. Her voice was like ice, and her movements were precise and ruthless. She handed Doran a brochure. "School rules. Under no circumstances," Anna began, "should you reveal your real name or any other personal information. Here, you are nobody. All students here are called sparrows. You are young men and women gathered from all corners of the country, the dregs of society, but from now on, tools of the Bureau." One of the main lessons they were supposed to learn was how to find the weaknesses of the opponent and use them. When Instructor Anna finished speaking, she called Doran and another student, a tall, wiry man named Victor, to the front of the class. "Undress," Anna commanded, her voice leaving no room for objections. "Completely. In front of everyone." Doran felt a wave of shame wash over her body, followed by an icy coldness of rage. Her heart raced with indignation. She was a ballerina. Her body was an instrument of art, not an object of humiliation. Every muscle tensed in silent protest. "From the moment you were born," Anna continued, her gaze fixed on Doran, "your bodies belong to the country. To repay the country, you must forget your pride, your morals. From now on, you are the property of the Bureau. Your body is a weapon, and a weapon must have no shame. Doran slowly, with a dignity she had not yet fully lost, removed her uniform. Every gaze, every whisper in the class felt like a blow to her. She stood naked, feeling utterly vulnerable, but at the same time something clicked inside her. It was the moment when her old self, the ballerina, full of grace and tenderness, began to die, making way for something new, harder, more dangerous. Humiliation was a tool, or she always used a tool, and she felt it reshaping her. After this lesson, the real torture began. It was not just learning everything, but experiencing every training session as a test of endurance. The physical demands were unbearable. Running through snowy forests to exhaustion, sparring until blood was drawn, where every blow was real, not just practice. Her body, accustomed to the graceful movements of ballet, was now breaking and being remolded into a killing machine. The psychological torture was even worse. Deprivation of sleep, constant pressure, simulations of interrogations where she was forced to reveal her deepest fears. Doran struggled with insomnia, with nightmares where the stage of the Aurora Theater turned into a battlefield, and the music became screams. She doubted herself, her choices, but each time despair washed over her, she remembered her mother, her words, "Do not cut off all your retreat paths." Besides lessons in forgetting pride, Doran learned everything: shooting any type of weapon, picking locks, surveillance, hand-to-hand combat. She absorbed knowledge like a sponge. As her uncle Adam had predicted, Doran turned out to be a natural spy. Every subject came easily to her. She excelled above all, but this also sparked envy and hostility. One day, while Doran was showering in the communal shower, the naked Victor, the same student who had stood next to her on the first lecture, suddenly shoved her against the wall. His eyes burned in malice. He had long been dissatisfied with Doran, envied her success, and now wanted to humiliate her, conquer her by dirty means. "Do you think you're better than everyone?" he rasped, pressing her against the cold tiles. But Doran was not an easy target. During her training, she had become as tough as steel. Her instincts, honed by training, kicked in instantly. She grabbed a steel floor scraper that was nearby and struck him on the head with incredible force. Victor collapsed to the floor, groaning. This incident led to Doran being summoned to the office of the school director, a gray-haired, stern man whose eyes seemed to see through everything. But to her surprise, he did not scold her for attacking a classmate. He simply listened attentively as Doran recounted the events. However, instructor Anna did not let it go just like that. At the next class, she called Doran forward and then summoned Victor. "Doran," Anna said, her voice emotionless. "Give him what he really wanted." Victor, who had already managed to recover but looked disheveled, smirked. "Turn around," he ordered Doran. But Doran refused. She looked Victor straight in the eyes. Then slowly she unbuttoned her uniform and removed all her clothing, standing before him naked. In her gaze there was neither shame nor fear, only cold, piercing determination. It was not an act of humiliation, but a demonstration of absolute control over herself and the situation. She understood that Victor wanted not her body, but power. He wanted to dominate, and when she deprived him of that opportunity, he became helpless. He saw not an object of desire, but something far more dangerous. A person who was completely in control of herself, who feared nothing, not even humiliation. His desire, based on power and control, instantly evaporated when he realized that Doran would not yield. He quickly pulled on his pants and left, as if defeated. The school director was impressed. He saw that Doreen had mastered the art of reading others' thoughts and manipulation. He decided that she was ready. He allowed her to graduate early and sent her back to New Babylon. As soon as Doreen returned home, the phone rang. It was Adam. He scheduled a meeting at a restaurant. When Doran arrived, Adam was already waiting for her at a table in the corner. Congratulations, Doran, he said, barely smiling. You passed the test. I have your first assignment. He handed her a folder. A few months ago, Nash, a Central Intelligence Agency agent, had secretly met with his informant in a park in Old Rome to exchange information while in the European Union. At the moment they were making the exchange, a police patrol passed by. Seeing that the police had stopped his informant, Nash instantly drew his gun and fired several shots to divert attention. Thanks to this, he saved the informant and managed to escape to the embassy, finding safety. After that, Nash returned to the United States for a time, but now the National Security Bureau discovered that he was in the Vienna alliance. We need to find out who his informant is, Adam continued. We're sending you. You need to get close to Nash. Doran did not want to be a spy. It repulsed her. She wanted to return to her life, to her art. If I complete this assignment, Doran asked, will you give me my freedom? Adam looked at her, his eyes empty. Maybe, he replied, but first you must prove your loyalty. Otherwise, you know. That maybe sounded like a sentence. Doran had no choice. She had to go to the Vienna Alliance. She was assigned a room in the local security bureau building. Her roommate turned out to be Martha, an experienced spy with many years of service. Martha was a woman with weary eyes, but a sharp mind. Deep sadness was evident in her eyes, but also a steely will. Be careful, Martha whispered to Doran on the very first evening. Our station chief, Max, is an old lecher. Stay alert. He won't miss his chance. And Martha was right. As soon as Max saw Doran, his eyes lit up. He constantly sought opportunities to get closer, making lewd jokes. But Doran, after everything she had been through, paid no attention to such people. She focused on her mission. From the document she was given, Doran learned that Nash swam in the same pool every day. Following him, she spent the whole day observing him discreetly. In the evening, she dyed her hair a bright blonde color. The next day, she went to the same pool and requested a registration form. As she began to fill in her personal details, her hand trembled. The fake name she had been given felt foreign. Suddenly, succumbing to impulse, Doran tore up the form with the fake name. She took a new one and wrote her real name in bold letters, Doran. This was tantamount to revealing her true identity to the enemy, a bold move that was meant to either attract or repel. In her sexy swimsuit, Doran walked past Nash, deliberately drawing his attention. She knew he would notice her. Just as she was about to leave the pool, Nash called out to her. Wait, his voice was deep with a slight rasp. I think I saw you yesterday, and your hair was dark. Doran felt a chill run down her spine. He knew. He realized that she had deliberately attracted his attention. This meant that he was observant and clever. He understood her game. Adrenaline surged through her veins. Doran got on the bus, her heart beating slightly faster than usual. But when the bus pulled away, a faint smile appeared on her face. He noticed. The game had begun. The next day, Doran arrived at the pool as usual, but Nash was nowhere to be found. When she returned the locker key, the staff could not find her registration form. It turned out that it had been stolen by Nash. He had already checked her real name and all the information he could find. He reported to his superiors at the CIA that Doran was a ballerina, and more importantly, that she was the niece of the deputy director of the Bureau of National Security. Moreover, Nash was convinced that this woman, using her real name, must be hiding something more. All these reasons led him to decide he had to find out if he could win this woman over to his side. The next day, at an international wine reception, Nash met Doran again. They approached each other, already knowing who was who. The conversation began without any preamble. I know who you are, Nash said, his eyes studying her, and I know that you are here for my soul. And I know who you are, Doran replied, maintaining her composure, and I am here because I was ordered to. Nash made it clear that he wanted to befriend her. He suggested they have dinner together the next day. Doran agreed. That night, Doran returned to her room and found that Marta was not there. The bathroom door was ajar. Seizing the moment, Doran began to search Marta's room. In a crack behind the wall under the baseboard, she finally found a thin paper bag. Inside were intimate photographs of Marta and an American woman. Next to it lay a diary. Doran quickly flipped through it. The diary mentioned that this woman was the chief of staff of the U.S. Senate, and her name was Stephanie. And more importantly, Marta was planning to make a major deal with her for the exchange of information for $250,000 in London. The diary contained entries about Marta's feelings for Stephanie, her hopes for a new life, her fatigue from the spy routine. Doran felt a pang of sympathy for this woman who, like herself, was trapped. At that moment, Doran heard the door to the room open. It was Marta returning. Doran, not losing her composure, quickly hid the diary and photographs, managing to flip through a few more pages. When Marta entered, Doreen stepped out of her room as if nothing had happened. Marta handed her a folded piece of paper. It turned out to be a report from Max. Doran had rejected the station chief Max in his dirty advances, and this petty man immediately wrote a report to the Bureau of National Security stating that Doran had made no progress with Nash. Realizing that her position was becoming precarious, Doran decided to take unconventional action. The next night, she did not go to dinner with Nash as promised. Instead, she secretly followed him to his home, learning his address. Knowing his residence, Doran decided to go for it. To get closer, she squeezed out a few fake tears and pressed the doorbell at his house. When Nash opened the door, Doran began to play a pathetic scene, slowly approaching him, trying to seduce him with her beauty and feigned vulnerability. But Nash was not fooled. He even told Doran to think carefully about what she really wanted. For the first time, Doran tasted defeat when she could not decipher another's psychology. She could only ask Nash to meet again the next day. But the next day, Doran waited a long time at the pool, but Nash never showed up. She had no choice. She had to go to Nash's house again. Using her excellent lock-picking skills, she effortlessly opened his door. She searched the house but found nothing useful. Just as she was about to leave, her gaze accidentally fell on two wine glasses that had been sitting on the table since the night before. She picked up the one that had Nash's fingerprints on it. It was at least some lead. Returning, she was surprised to see that Adam had already arrived. This was the result of Max's tip-off. Since Doran had not made any progress with Nash and had not obtained any useful information, she panicked and told Adam about Marta's upcoming deal with the Americans for $250,000. At the same time, she lied that this was something she and Marta were doing together and that she needed Adam to give her that $250,000 first. Adam realized that this information could be important and temporarily left Doran alone. Just as he was about to leave, Adam remembered that he had forgotten his jacket. Doran took it upon herself to bring it to him, and fully aware, she ran her hand over the inner pocket, feeling Adam's passport. She quickly memorized the number. This was her insurance, her trump card. After seeing Adam off, she turned around and saw Marta holding a gun. It turned out their conversation had been overheard. "Why do you want to take the target I've spent over a year on?" Marta's voice was filled with rage. Doran knew that Marta could not obtain such a large sum, $250,000, but she could make the director of the National Security Bureau, who'd pay that amount to help Marta complete the deal. Marta curiously asked why Doran was risking her life to carry out this mission. And Doran, understanding that she needed Marta's trust, told her that she had seen Arthur, the killer, working for Adam. This was something that could not be said to anyone. If it became known, Doran would surely be eliminated. But her action indirectly put Marta's life in danger as well. After the storm, Doran headed to the station to buy a ticket to Vienna. Then she approached the doors of a local bank. Through the glass door, Doran selected a young employee who looked quite inexperienced as her target. When the bank closed, Doran pretended to be in a hurry to open a new account. The one locking the door was the very young employee she had targeted. When the beautiful and pleading girl invited him for coffee and to fill out the registration form, the socially inexperienced employee naturally agreed. Meanwhile, Marta went in search of the head of the intelligence station, Max. Still harboring resentment towards Doran, she revealed Doran's weaknesses to Max, hoping to harm her. That same night, Doran returned to her apartment in the Vienna Alliance. Marta was not in the room. The bathroom door was ajar. Doran felt a chill coming from the bathroom and a strange metallic smell. She approached closer. What she saw made her gasp. Marta lay in the bathtub, her body unnaturally contorted, and the water was stained dark. Horror gripped Doran, but she didn't even have time to scream. Arthur, the very killer, emerged from around the corner. His eyes were empty, like a predator's. "Your friend was careless," Arthur said, his voice dull and devoid of emotion. "She knew too much. I spared your life because you are Adam's niece. But know this, if anyone else finds out that I killed Dmitri, the next one in the bathtub will be you." He disappeared as silently as he had appeared, leaving Doran alone with a dead Marta and a chilling promise. After the local police conducted an investigation, finding no useful information, Doran was released. The person waiting at the police station to pick her up was Nash. It turned out he had received a report from his colleagues. The important news he received this time was that Doran was an agent Sparrow, secretly trained by the National Security Bureau. He confronted Doran directly, comparing the differences in intelligence structures between the National Security Bureau and the CIA, condemning the ruthless and heartless aspects of the Russian Bureau towards its own people. Nash hoped he could persuade Doran to switch sides and work for the CIA. "I will protect you, just as I protected my informant," he assured her, his gaze sincere. "We don't have the same rules as they do. We value our people." Doran hesitated slightly. The words "we" touched her. She felt cornered, alone. The idea of protection, of having someone on her side, was tempting. Finally, she agreed to work for the CIA. We took her to a CIA safe house in the Vienna Alliance. There she was met by two CIA officials. For security reasons, they connected Doran to a lie detector and asked her numerous questions to determine if she truly wanted to join the American government. But this type of test was ineffective for a well-trained spy. Doran was ready. She controlled every heartbeat, every eye movement. After the test, Doran laid out her terms. She needed the CIA to transfer $30,000 to her account in Vienna every month. The CIA officials felt that Doreen was a bit greedy, and she was boldly demanding money without bringing any valuable information. "I have something," Doran said, her voice calm and confident. "The Chief of Staff of the U.S. Senate wants to sell missiles. Through Marta. I know all the details." This news shocked everyone in the room. They dared not underestimate this Russian spy firm. On the day of the deal, Doran arrived at the designated hotel in London. There were $250,000 waiting in the room prepared by the National Security Bureau. And in a secret compartment in the desk lay a fake disc prepared by the CIA. Doran went down to the hotel bar to wait for the Chief of Staff to arrive. Suddenly, the station chief Max came in. It turned out he was worried about the deal and had intentionally come here to help. But Doran knew that he was actually an informant sent by Adam. Doran saw Max and angrily chased after him into the room. Moments later, the Chief of Staff, Stephanie, arrived. Doran approached her first and introduced herself as the dealer. Seeing that this was not Marta, Stephanie became wary and was about to leave the hotel. But Doran carefully studied her opponent. She knew that Stephanie desperately needed money. So she convinced Stephanie to go with her to the room for the deal. Upon seeing the bag full of money, Stephanie's wariness faded. She handed Doran the disc containing the information. When Doran went to open the secret compartment under the desk, she began to switch the discs. Every second felt like an eternity. Doran's heart pounded in her ears. Her palms were sweaty. She felt Max's gaze burning into her back. But the operation took a little longer than expected, raising Max's suspicions. A CIA employee, who was still observing from the next room, could no longer sit idly by. She rushed to Doran's door and rang the bell, luring Max to open the door, pretending to be a hotel manager asking for customer feedback. This gave Doran more time to act. Finally, she successfully completed the switch. Doran finished the deal with Stephanie and told her to leave in an hour. But as soon as Doran left, Stephanie immediately grabbed the bag of money and left the hotel. While waiting at a traffic light, she lit a cigarette and accidentally noticed that agents from the CIA were following her on both sides. Stephanie panicked and threw the bag of money into a trash bin. Then she frantically dashed across the street and was unexpectedly hit by a truck, dying instantly. This unexpected situation was also noticed by an employee of the National Security Bureau at the hotel doors. He hurriedly called to report. Max received the call and immediately ordered the driver to head straight to the airport. He told Doran that the director of the National Security Bureau wanted to congratulate them, so he decided to fly back to Moscow immediately. He then asked for Doran's ticket and passport. She realized the danger signal, but at that moment, she could only pretend to be calm. Meanwhile, Wee received the disc from the hotel and was about to leave when he got a call from headquarters. Hearing that Stephanie had been killed, Wee understood that this situation would inevitably affect Doran's life. He hurried to the airport, hoping to save her. He caught up with Doran, who was standing in line to enter the waiting area. Doran turned around and saw Nash, but she shook her head, signaling him not to act recklessly. Nash felt completely powerless because he knew that Doran's trip would likely be dangerous. Upon returning to the headquarters of the National Security Bureau, the investigator asked Doran if she had passed any information to the Americans. Doran, of course, would never admit to this, even if she were beaten to death. Seeing her stubbornness, Adam called to directly order the use of torture on his niece. Doran was stripped naked and locked in a cell. Cold water continuously poured over her, penetrating to the bone, taking away the last remnants of warmth. She shivered, her teeth chattered, but she made no sound. Then she was taken back to the interrogation room. The question remained the same, but Doran still did not confess. This time she had to endure extremely painful beatings. Each blow resonated in her body, but the pain was merely a backdrop to her inner resolve. She recalled the lessons in the Siberian wilderness, every humiliation, every physical torture, and that gave her strength. Then they showed her a video, and Max, who had returned with her, was executed. The investigator pulled a gun from behind her and asked the question one last time, but Doran still did not confess. The trigger was pulled, but the gun was empty. At that moment, Adam appeared before Doran and ordered her to tell the truth, but Doran said that everything she did was to fulfill her mission. She did it only to gain the trust of the Americans and finally obtain information about the informant. Adam could not refute this, as, for the Sparrow, doing everything to complete the mission was normal. Seeing his miserable and unhappy niece, Adam gradually softened. His face expressed an internal struggle between duty and familial feelings. Doran was temporarily released. When Adam reported the situation to the director, both the director and the director of the school felt that Doran was deceiving Adam. This put pressure on Adam, and he said that if he found evidence of Doran's betrayal, he would definitely destroy her himself. At that time, Doran returned to the Vienna Alliance and to Nash. She knew that Nash would not reveal the informant's name, so in the end, she would inevitably die. Doran wanted protection and asked for more money. She wanted $250,000 transferred to her account in Vienna. Nash agreed to all her requests. In the end, Nash was defeated by this Russian girl. Nash was defeated by this Russian girl. When Doran woke up in bed, Nash was nowhere to be found. Doran's heart tightened with anxiety. She opened the kitchen door and froze. Arthur, the killer, was standing over Nash, his hands wrapped around Nash's neck with a thin wire. Nash was choking, his face turning blue. Doran instantly understood the situation. She rushed towards Arthur, not to stop him, but to help. She grabbed Nash's hands and tightly bound them, pretending to fully cooperate. Arthur momentarily loosened the wire, allowing Nash to gulp some air. Then he pulled a set of tools from his bag. These were specialized skin grafting tools used for burn victims. His expressionless eyes slid over to Doran. "He will talk," Arthur whispered, slowly, until he names the name. Doran watched Arthur as he began to torture Nash. Her face was impassive, but a hurricane raged inside hers. She even helped Arthur hold Nash down as he writhed in pain. Nash, despite the torture, refused to speak. He merely gritted his teeth and looked at Doran with a silent plea. "He won't say," Doran finally spoke, her voice steady. "Give me the tool. I know how to make him talk." Arthur, not expecting such initiative, handed her one of the tools. At that moment, when his attention was fully focused on Nash, Doran, like a lightning bolt, turned and struck Arthur with all her might on the head with the instrument. It was not just a blow, it was an outpouring of all her rage, despair, and pain. She had waited for this moment, pretending to be submissive to save Nash. Arthur, stunned, fell, but immediately jumped up, grabbing a sharp knife. He lunged at them. Doran and Nash did not wait for death. They counterattacked. Doran, using her ballet grace, transformed into a deadly weapon, dodged the blow, and struck Arthur's Achilles tendon. He collapsed to the floor, unable to rise. Doran rushed at him and, without hesitation, finished him off. The sound of his last breath was the only sound in the room. When Doran came to, she was lying on a hospital bed again. Her body ached, but she was alive. The biggest headache now was what to do next. Arthur's death proved her betrayal. The National Security Bureau would never forgive her for this. At that moment, the door opened, and the school director entered the room, the very gray-haired man who had released her early. Doran thought he had come to kill her, but he simply sat down next to the bed. "Do you think I'm here to kill you, Sparrow?" His voice was quiet. "No, I'm here to save you and myself." He paused. "I am an informant. My wife was sick with cancer. The Bureau did not allow an American doctor to operate on her. She died. Very early. That was my reason. The reason I betrayed them." His eyes were filled with deep, inexpressible pain. "But I am tired. Tired of this game. I saw potential in you. You can take my place. You must expose me. Then you can continue to live and you can replace me, continuing to work for the CIA." This was a turning point. Doran felt a grand plan forming in her mind. First, she surrendered to the police of the Vienna Alliance, confessing to Arthur's murder. She demanded a meeting with representatives of the National Security Bureau. When she met with the Bureau's people, Doran asked to contact the Bureau director directly. She wanted to reveal the name of the internal traitor and exchange this information for her life. Over the phone, Doran told the director the name of the mole. At the same time, the school director returned home and didn't lock the door. He simply sat on the couch, calmly waiting for them to come for him. Doran was taken to the airport. CIA agents were already waiting for her there. Nash silently looked at her, disappointment evident in his eyes. This woman had finally completed her mission. But at what cost? At that moment, a Russian helicopter hovered over the airport. They had brought the spy. When Nash asked the Russian side to remove the hood for identification, unexpectedly, the person they brought was not the school director, but Adam. At that moment, Nash realized that Doran had deceived them. But he could not reveal the truth. They confirmed that this was the target they wanted to exchange. It turned out that the name Doran had given to the director was not the school director's, but her Uncle Adam's. After the director sent people to investigate, they found a used wine glass in Adam's house. Additionally, they also discovered that Adam had a secret account in Vienna. The Americans had transferred $250,000 to it, and the encrypted information on the disk that Adam had received from Doran also came from Vienna. The series of evidence left Adam with no chances. At that moment, Adam whispered his last words into Doran's ear. "You didn't cut off all your escape routes. Well done, Sparrow." Then he continued toward the Americans. But the National Security Bureau could not allow the traitor to leave unharmed. They had long set up an ambush to shoot Adam in the head. Doran was also returned to New Babylon, and she became a new generation of patriotic heroes. The school director sat below and applauded her with satisfaction. Thus, Doran replaced her uncle, becoming the director of the National Security Bureau. At the same time, she became a top double-layer spy, continuing to play between New Babylon and the USA for survival. To survive, she had to keep playing this game. Her life was now an endless dance on the edge of a knife, where each step could be the last one, but she was ready. She was Doran, a ballerina turned sparrow, and her grace was now a deadly weapon in a world where trust was a luxury and betrayal was the only constant.